Most of you must be thinking, I'm wearing a suit, I might be smart, and there go my labels. What a great start to the talk. Let me just put these labels back on. And look at my very discreet set of flashcards, if I might forget. But let's put those preconceived notions, those perceptions aside. You don't know me now, and now is when I'm going to start my talk. Let me try something smart. I think I'm pretty clear. Can everyone hear me? Is it audible?
Hello.
There goes another. Okay, so let me try something smart, right? As you guys saw earlier in that stream talk. So I'm going to begin with a question. By show of hands, how many of you used to watch, or have heard of the show called Modern Family? By show of hands. Oh, that's great. So a fair share of you would know the people that will now appear on the screen. But it's totally fine if you don't. We're going to do a little activity where I'm just gonna come around the room and I'm gonna ask you what is the first thing that pops up in your mind when you think of it. So let's start with you. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Alex? That one. What does she look like to you? Any word, the first thing that pops up.
Alex.
Yeah, what do you think?
She looks like a nerd.
Exactly. Okay, so you're on the right track. Let's go to one more. Okay, now so we've covered two. Let's go to another one. Surya, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of him? Popular. Exactly. Last one. Praveen, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of him? Exactly. So this activity went just as I had planned. I asked 4 of you, right? Because I don't know if I have enough time. So this activity went just as I had planned. And what I want to show through this activity, you will realize at the end. But for now, just know that opinions were made, right? People had things in their minds when they saw these 4 people, and most of them don't even know these people. So all of you told me what stands out for you, but what stands out for me is the stereotypicality. Okay, can everybody hear me? At the back.
Hello.
Okay, so all of you told me what stands out for you. But what stands out for me is the stereotypicality that is represented via these skills. Now, it is something that is so hard for us to grasp at first, to understand, because of how widespread it is and how normal it has become. Right? We don't really understand what is happening and how negative it can be. Let me elaborate a little on what I'm trying to say. Now, I assigned, along with the 4 of you that I asked questions, right? We assigned these four teenagers into 4 different social categories, each of which has a different perception, right? And we unknowingly begin this process as soon as we see someone. High school is a formative life experience, as I think all of us will know here, right? It is as social as it is academic, and we encounter a jostling bazaar of potential identities, ranging from jock to prep to geek, to any other social order that might come to mind. And we choose, or are we assigned a social identity that will stay with us for the years to come. Now that is something you guys have to ponder upon and maybe tell me at the end of my talk. It is the clubs you're part of, it is the things you do that create your social identity. And we as humans are innately driven to find this tribe, this clan, this group of ours. But what is this group that we classify people into? Right, so these are a couple of the examples that I took. But what is this group that we classify people into? It's known as a clique. So I'm going to read, and you guys can read along with me. A group, typically of teens, who exclude all who don't fit into the stereotypical image of perfection. Can everybody here see? Okay. Often think they are showing outstanding originality and individuality, when they are in fact exactly the same. And this is the same for all subcultures. They usually hate opposing cliques for no good reason, other than they perceive or have been told that this is the right thing to do. That's great. I'm joking. they like to label people. So they don't have to regard each human as an individual. There goes another great. This talk is going brilliant. This results in people having misconceptions about each of the set groups, or automatically classifying someone as a member of the group just because of what they choose to listen to, wear, or do. Now, I believe the first example that I took, using the show, is a microcosm of the society that we live in. But coming to a more realistic setting for most of us here, high school. So from this point forward, think of high school as maybe a little kid who's had a little too much candy, right? And he's going absolutely nuts with his new toy. And his new toy is a label maker, right? Because the concept of assigning of individuals, this concept of labeling, is the one thing that I can assure you happens at any school, any day. At every single day, in fact. Oh, someone's been wearing a little too much black. Wait, he made the football team? She got another A. Are you serious? He's dating someone else already. Labeled. Right? And with this labeling, a card pops up in your mind. And this card enlists adjectives, enlists qualities, right? And you create a spectrum in your mind. And beyond this spectrum, this person does not exist for you. Rather, cannot exist for you because you are so set in what you have thought initially. We operate in this manner, in an almost autopilot mode. And this is what we need to be conscious of. Conscious of the unconscious behavior, and in most situations, the bias that is formulated in our minds. There couldn't possibly be any other conclusion to arrive at, but the one I've chosen. Good day. Was that 100% my own conscious judgment? Why am I so biased when it comes to certain things or certain people? Preconceived notions, biases, and the influence of the unconscious on our thoughts and actions is the answer to this. Now, I won't be talking too much about the psychology behind this, because that is something I frankly don't know much about, right? But I do know this. The unconscious mind, the way it works, is that it stores, first of all, it makes opinions as soon as an event occurs. Then it stores and keeps these thoughts at bay. Unconscious behavior is automatic. It occurs with a lack of awareness, control, and intention. Never judge a book by the cover, they say. I'm sure everybody's heard this, right? But can anyone truly say they don't in this day and age? Everyone judges. Everyone forms opinions. As high schoolers, I think we should know that best. We create opinions based on the talk of others, based on what we have heard and not what we have seen, right? I'm sure you guys know what this is. How many of you have watched this movie here? How many of you relate to this? See, Arman's being honest now. Arman is being honest. So my take as to why we do this is that I believe we are looking for validation of what we already know. Now, this validation that we seek comes from within and has become something that almost all of us do or have done. As Arman rightly put his hand up when I asked. So thank you for that. So we see this labeling happen mostly due to assumptions that people make, correct? Assumptions are a product of the influence of the unconscious on our thoughts and minds. So for all the parents that seem a little lost here, this is from Mean Girls. Okay? I saw you guys. So this is a popular clique known as Mean Girls. So this is 2/3 of that entire group, right? And what they do is they are also known as the plastics, right? So they are the what do I call it? Popular beauty queens of the school. So just to clarify that, I think it's important to realize and understand that these assumptions are not correct, right? We don't really know what we're doing, and I think that is what we need to understand. We need to understand its impact and the actions that follow. Now, these assumptions that we make are so widespread, and we often don't understand its effect. We pigeonhole this person and don't let him or her exceed this spectrum that we created in our minds. The person then has to live with and live up to the varying assumptions that people make, and can't truly live up to his or her potential. Right? I believe this leads to stunted growth of the individual. So let's take an example now so that you guys can understand better. So for example, a group could be perceived as athletic. So in my terms, that would be called a jog. I lost it. somewhere here. Okay, so that is called a job, right? But say an individual in that group gets really good grades in school. Now this person won't be treated based on his intellectual ability, but rather his athletic characteristics, because that is the larger group that he is part of. Now when we treat people based on a single characteristic, it changes their self-image, resulting in a change in who they are, of course. This phenomenon is known as the looking glass self. People become more like the way they think they are perceived by others. I went through a recent study about high school cliques just to seem, smarter for this talk, right? But I did find something very interesting. So these groups, these cliques, are not an inherently negative part of our society, but rather part of normative development in our society. Now I think this is where a substantial amount of our problem lies. Right? We don't realize what is happening. It is so widespread that people have just come to terms with it. They think of it as normal. Right? They don't really understand its negative impact. So what we don't realize is that its impact in the long run is not on them, is not on the people we are judging, but on us. What we don't see, don't understand, is that our judgment leads to suffering, our own suffering. Perceptions, notions, and the conditioning of an individual tend to stay with them for the rest of their lives. They act as a barricade. Oftentimes we don't realize it is this block, right? It is this force that influences our thoughts and judgments and often creates a block for free thought. And we become poor listeners and thinkers in this process, something that might stay with us for the years to come. High school can be as limiting as free. Oftentimes we restrict ourselves in terms of what we do, who we talk to, what we say, right, and just our entire persona in general, because of the supposed perception that others have of us. People wear this supposed identity like a badge. Now, it's not a negative connotation, but we unnecessarily give it the power to be one. Right? We think of it as a box that we are confined in and cannot outgrow and become our own person. The need to fit in. So I just spoke about this. The confirmation bias. We latch on to what we think, to what is already in our mind, and then we use this paired with the anchoring bias, where we are over-reliant on the first piece of information we hear. So we use preconceptions, notions, and we latch on to the first type of information we receive. The need to fit in, to be accepted, is very high amongst us as humans. And in my opinion, we are at every stage of our lives looking for approval of sorts. From this relevant world of ours, now this relevant world of ours, I'd like to define as our peer, right? As the social circle that we belong to. And this need is probably the highest in our age groups. We say things and we do things. To fit into any social circle that will take us, to be perceived as good. We don't voice ourselves out as often as we should, but we go with the herd, and we adopt a herd mentality. But why do we do this? Validation and acceptance. Now acceptance is not only external, but you believing in yourself and accepting the idea of who you are without thinking of what others might have to say. Now as preachy, as cliched as I might come off right now, right, I would like to say, whoever you are, whether it's smart, athletic, or literally any other characteristic that comes to mind, as long as you accept yourself, that will make your entire journey all the more easier. What we must strive to do is to not let this perception shadow our true self. We need to bring out this self of ours, categorizing and classifying aside. I believe high school is a place to find yourself. It is a place to find yourself and not become a version of someone else's view of you, and then constantly change yourself to keep up with it. We should choose to live in vision, and not the spectrum that others define us by. Now, as I come to the end of my talk, I'd like to leave you with a little something. So, the first time I heard these lines was, I think, when I was, say, 10 years old, right? And back then, it didn't mean as much as it does now. Now, I look at these lines very differently. So these are lines that I first heard in 1992.